Shocking moment for Emma Raducanu in Cincinnati with the chair umpire. In a very tight duel against Aryna Sabalenka, the Briton starred in an exchange of words that left no one indifferent. It all happened in the third set, in one of the most tense moments of the match. What began as a top-level sporting clash ended with a brief but intense discussion on court. Let's review how the events unfolded and why this episode became one of the most talked about of the tournament. In the round of 32 of the WTA in Cincinnati, Emma Raducanu faced the world number 1 and defending champion, Aryna Sabalenka. The match was a true battle of endurance and talent that lasted more than 3 hours. Sabalenka arrived with the pressure of defending her title, while Raducanu sought to prove that she could compete head-to-head with the elite of world tennis. The atmosphere on court was intense, with the crowd on edge at every rally. The score reached the third set with maximum equality. Neither of the two players was giving in, and every point was fought as if it were decisive. In the midst of that tension, a child's cry began to be heard from the stands. What for some was just a detail, for Raducanu became a constant distraction. With the score 3-4 against her and in the middle of the sixth deuce of a key game, the Briton decided to stop the match and address the chair umpire. With evident frustration, Raducanu asked for an explanation, hoping that some measure would be taken to silence the noise. The chair umpire, remaining calm, replied that the game had to continue. It was then that she uttered the phrase that would mark the moment, "It's a child, do you want me to throw a child out of the stadium?" The answer surprised part of the crowd, who watched closely the British player's reaction. Raducanu, somewhat resigned, returned to her position to serve. Far from crumbling, she managed to win that game, showing great ability to quickly recover. However, the tension in the air remained. Sabalenka, with her experience, knew how to seize any opportunity to put pressure on her rival, aware that the match was at a critical moment. Each subsequent point seemed loaded with special significance. The exchange of looks, the intensity of the shots and the attitude of both players made it clear that it was not only about technique, but also about mental strength. The stands, divided between applause and murmurs, followed every moment closely, knowing that any detail could be decisive. The episode with the child and the chair umpire was already just another chapter in a very evenly matched match. But in tennis, these small moments can change the dynamics of the encounter, and that's how the tension increased towards the end. The third set reached its most decisive moment with the tiebreak. Sabalenka started setting the pace with her powerful serve and deep shots, while Raducanu tried to stay firm in defense and take advantage of any opportunity to attack. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, aware that the decision was near. The points in the tiebreak alternated with great equality. Raducanu showed notable concentration, despite what had happened minutes earlier. She managed to hit several winners that drew applause, but Sabalenka kept calm and responded with precision. The 5-5 score in the tiebreak reflected how close the match was and the intensity with which both were competing. At the decisive moment, Sabalenka stepped forward. She took advantage of a couple of errors from her rival and closed the tiebreak 7-6-5, securing her passage to the next round. It was a bitter ending for Raducanu, who had shown a great level and competitive spirit worthy of the best. At the end, both players greeted each other at the net with respect. Sabalenka, smiling, acknowledged her rival's good match. Raducanu, although disappointed by the defeat, made it clear she was ready for the next challenge, the US Open, just 2 weeks away. The tense moment with the chair umpire did not go unnoticed on social media. Many fans debated whether the situation was handled correctly or whether a different solution should have been sought. Tennis, as an individual sport, depends largely on concentration, and these types of incidents always generate mixed opinions. All in all, the match was a great spectacle for tennis lovers, combining technical quality, physical endurance and moments of high tension. Beyond the score, it was clear that both names will continue to make headlines on the circuit. The duel between Emma Raducanu and Aryna Sabalenka in Cincinnati was an example of top-level tennis, with an outcome decided by small details. Raducanu showed character and the ability to react to an unexpected situation, while Sabalenka confirmed why she is the world number 1. Although the victory went to the Belarusian, Raducanu made it clear that she is ready to compete at the highest level, and her performance in Cincinnati may be an important warning ahead of the US Open. Tense discussion between Carlos Alcaraz and the chair umpire in Cincinnati. What was supposed to be a calm match for the Mercian ended with an unexpected exchange of words during a break. It all revolved around a detail that, although unrelated to the game, caused an awkward moment on court. Let's review how a couple of water bottles became the protagonists of the day. Carlos Alcaraz arrived in Cincinnati with the aim of earning points and consolidating his great season. In the round of 16, he faced Italian Luca Nardi and resolved the match with authority, winning in 2 sets and without trouble. The crowd enjoyed solid and effective tennis from the Spaniard, who remained focused at all times. However, during one of the changeovers, the calm was broken for an unusual reason. During the pause, the chair umpire asked him to remove or cover the water bottles he had next to his seat. The reason: the Evian brand he was drinking is not an official sponsor of the Cincinnati tournament. The instruction sought to avoid advertising brands unrelated to the event, something common in competitions at this level, but which on this occasion did not sit well with immersion. Alcaraz replied that it made no sense to be moving or covering the bottles every time he sat down and stood up. He commented that he was not responsible for them not being covered and that therefore it was not his problem. The TV camera focused on the moment, capturing the discomfort in his face and the serious tone of his response. "So, for your mistake, do I have to cover the bottle?" he asked directly to the umpire, making his disagreement clear. The official insisted on the request, but the Spaniard stood firm. The situation, far from calming down, ended up generating more media attention. The irony was that, when the bottles were shown on screen, the non-sponsor brand got more visibility than it would have normally had. An effect opposite to what the organization sought with the initial warning. Finally, Alcaraz settled the matter by saying, "Do I have to pay for your mistake? I'm sorry, but I'm not going to cover it." He then returned to focusing on the match and maintained his dominance on court, closing the encounter without further sporting incidents. This episode was not an isolated case for Alcaraz in Cincinnati. Days earlier, he had already starred in another tense moment, this time with Irishman Fergus Murphy, one of the best-known chair umpires for his strict application of the time rules between serves. The problem arose in his match against Tomáš Medvedev, where the heat and the length of the points required small extra breaks. Normally, under these conditions, umpires manually stop the clock between first and second serve to allow players to recover. However, Murphy decided not to do so, applying the rules strictly. This prompted protests from both Alcaraz and his rival, who felt the match conditions deserved greater flexibility. The Mercian complained clearly, asking for consistency and treatment adapted to the reality of the match. The lack of a satisfactory response increased the tension, and the episode was added to the list of run-ins that Alcaraz has had with umpires at this tournament. Despite these situations, the world number 2 has maintained a high level of play. His performance on court has not been significantly affected, and he continues to advance in the tournament with a steady step. What happened, however, has been widely commented on by the press and fans, generating debate about the application of the rules and the role of the organization in these types of conflicts. In the case of the bottles, some believe the umpire's request was unnecessary and ended up being counterproductive. Others argue that it is part of the rules and that all players must adapt to the tournament's commercial regulations. The incident, although brief, reflects the tensions that can arise on the circuit beyond the purely sporting aspect. Cincinnati, with its mix of high-level competition and these small controversies, continues to prove why it is one of the most followed tournaments before the US Open. And Alcaraz, with his character and talent, continues to be a protagonist both on and off the court. The verbal confrontation between Carlos Alcaraz and the chair umpire in Cincinnati put on the table an often unseen aspect of professional tennis, the management of brands and sponsors during matches. Although the Spaniard emerged victorious on court, he made it clear that he was not willing to assume responsibilities he considered not his own. These episodes show that, even in controlled matches, a moment of tension can always arise that changes the tone of the day. The important thing, in Alcaraz's case, is that he knew how to redirect the situation and stay focused on the competition. The Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz and the Briton Emma Raducanu have received a wild card to participate as a pair in the mixed doubles category this year at the US Open, the fourth and last Grand Slam of the season, while Paula Badosa will pair up this time with the Briton Jack Draper. The pairing of Raducanu and Alcaraz is one of 6 duos to have received an invitation for the championship, which will take place before the main tournament, on Tuesday 19 and Wednesday 20th of August in Flushing Meadows, and which will put $1 million, about €870,000, on the line for the winners. The CEO and executive director of the USTA, Lou Scher, had already pointed out that they wanted to find a way to show the best men and women in the world competing with and against each other. We were confident that we would be able to get the best players in the world excited about this unique opportunity. Seeing the pairs who have already entered their names on the list of participants excites us all, he added. 2 more wild cards will be announced later to bring the total number of competing pairs to 16. 8 of the 16 pairs have been admitted directly into the draw, including the ones formed by American Emma Navarro and Italian Jannik Sinner, and by Pole Iga Swiatek and Norwegian Casper Ruud. In addition, Spaniard Paula Badosa, who last year competed in the North American major alongside Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas, with whom she has ended her relationship, will play this time with Briton Jack Draper, while Americans Jessica Pegula and Tommy Paul will play together in front of their home crowd. Other notable wildcards are Serbian Novak Djokovic and his compatriot Olga Danilovic, and two-time Grand Slam mixed doubles champion Venus Williams will compete with fellow American Riley Opelka. The current US Open mixed doubles champions, Italians Sara Errani and Andrea Vavasori, have also received an invitation.